Good afternoon. I'm Lee Lasher, incoming president of Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey. I hope you are all healthy and coping during these challenging and uncertain COVID-19 times. As much as I thought I would love wearing sweatpants all day, every day, I must say I'm really getting tired of all of this. One of the best quotes I saw recently goes like this: "Everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always." I think that is especially true these days. Our wonderful speaker this afternoon, Sherri Mandel, and her husband Seth have fought a battle most of us couldn't even imagine. Since the murder of their son Kobe in 2001 in a terror attack outside of Tekoa, Israel, Sherri and Seth have taught us about resilience, hope, community, and kindness, and have literally helped thousands of bereaved children and adults in Israel. And it's been a privilege for me to serve on the Kobe Mandel Foundation board since its formation. Our wonderful speaker this afternoon, Sherri Mandel, received a National Jewish Book Award in 2004 for her spiritual memoir, The Blessings of a Broken Heart, which has been translated into 3 languages and adapted into a stage play. She is also the author of The Road to Resilience, From Chaos to Celebration, Writers of the Holocaust, and 2 children's picture books, The Elephant in the Sukkah and The Upside Down Boy and the Israeli Prime Minister. Sherri has written for numerous magazines, including USA Today, The Times of Israel, the Jerusalem Post, and Hadassah magazine. Sherri received the ADL Partners of Peace Award in 2004, as well as the Jewish Women's International Woman to Watch Award. Sherri and her husband, Rabbi Seth Mandel, direct the Kobe Mandel Foundation in Israel, which runs support groups and camps for bereaved families and children. With its therapeutic programming, Camp Kobe has helped thousands of bereaved children thrive. A certified pastoral counselor, Sherri also directs healing retreats for bereaved mothers and couples and lectures about grief and resilience around the world. Jewish Federation is very proud to bring you this virtual conversation with Sherri Mandel. Please note, Sherri will be happy to answer any of your questions. Please click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and pose any questions, and I will share them with Sherri after her presentation. Sherri, I turn it over to you.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you all for being here today. And thank you, Lee, for that introduction. We all need resilience in these times. It's not an easy time for anybody. It's not easy in Israel, and it's not easy in America. So what I'm going to talk to you today about are the 7 spiritual steps of resilience that I wrote about in my book. And I discovered these steps by living them and by working with hundreds of bereaved mothers and thousands of bereaved children. I just want to say before I start to give a disclaimer, because this speech is it's not for people who are sick or have loved ones in the hospital right now, I don't think, or, it's not for young mothers with young children who are going crazy, because there's also survival mode, and resilience isn't just survival mode. We're going to talk about the 7 steps. So let me just tell you what the 7 steps are, and then I'll go into a bit of detail. I'm going to speak about 20 minutes. So the first step is chaos. Yes, thank you. The next step is community, choice, creativity, commemoration, consecration, and celebration. So it all begins in chaos. And chaos is a very, very difficult step. Nobody wants to be in chaos because it's like the earth. We don't know where the earth is below us. We feel like we can't stand on it anymore. And there's no certainty. And that's what we're going through now, is a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. Will we even survive this? How will the world look at the end of this? And will there be an end? So there's a lot of anxiety. The only thing I can say about chaos is that every act of creativity begins in chaos. God created the world from chaos. So even when it doesn't seem like something is being born from this, there is something being born. I mean, I personally think God is reshaping the world right now in ways that we can't even imagine. The next C is community. And I know that those of you who have joined us today, that you understand the importance of community, because community is a safety net for us. And community offers us a place where we can feel contained when we maybe can't contain ourselves. It also goes along with kindness, because we give kindness to our families and to our community. I should add that my definition of resilience is, it's usually people think of resilience as bouncing back and becoming who you were before. So, for example, after coronavirus, we'll go back and be exactly who we were. But my definition of resilience is no, that we're going to change and we're going to be different, but we're going to be better. Because my definition of resilience is to expand, to become bigger, become more than you were, right? We don't want to go back to being who we were. Exactly. And change is so difficult. Most people, so many people, you want to change and you can't, because we're so stuck in our patterns. But this coronavirus, I hate to say it, but it's really an opportunity for change. And we have to connect. We can connect with that, and not just with the anxiety. There have been studies that show how much community can help mental health. And in fact, Dr. Brandon Court, he did a study on former child soldiers from Nepal, and they had been in a terrible war. And what he discovered was their level of mental health depended on the way they were welcomed back into the community. So the way the community took them in really determined their mental health. So the community is so important. And this is a time to reach out to the community. And also, if there's something you need, also to ask for help. Because, okay, that's another thing. It's okay to ask for help and to ask for kindness. I think also now is a time to give kindness to our families, even though it's hard. I know if you're like me, you're having some fights with your husband or your spouse or your children. And it's tough because we're kind of squeezed together. But to remember that this is really an opportunity to reignite ourselves as families, because we never get this chance to just be with the family and to really appreciate it. Which leads me to my next C, which is choice. Hashem, God created the world so we have choice. And we're always making choices. And it's important to make those choices and to feel a certain sense of agency, even when we feel that we're kind of stuck. And I don't know about you guys, but we've been quarantined. I mean, we're out a little bit more now, but there's so much fear. So the Maggid of Dubno, he tells a story of a prince who wanted to be an archer. And he went all over to find the best archer in the world. And finally, he found an archer who hit his targets every single time he hit the bull. And the prince said to this archer, "How is it that you hit the bullseye all the time?" And the archer said, "Oh, it's easy. You see, wait, I wrote it down so I would get it. I move the bullseye wherever the arrow goes. I move the bullseye wherever the arrow goes." Now, that's really hard to do, but I think that's what's being asked of us, because we are in a situation we have no control over, we didn't expect, and you know what? Even the experts don't really know. I think probably you've noticed that it's really hard to say what's going to be and what helps and if we're going to get a vaccine. So I think the bullseye is just knowing that this is the situation right now. It's different, but we can also relax into this situation and find the good in it, because there's a lot of good. There's a lot of new things coming in to us. And a lot of it is coming through Zoom and coming through the computer, because we need something different now. I know all of a sudden I need to learn how to meditate. So I thought I needed for a long time, but I never quite got there. But lo and behold, there are some sessions being offered on meditation. So it's also a time to choose something new and to just surrender, but not surrender as if it's a negative. Surrender in the positive sense of the world. The whole world is surrendering. I should say also, I forgot to say about community, that it's really unique that we have a world community. Like the whole world is sharing something, and it's not a Pepsi moment, right? It's something that's difficult. But yet in this isolation and quarantine, I feel like there's connection, a lot of connection happening. And we need to stay connected. Also a part of resilience. The next C is creativity. God is the master of creativity. I mean, he created the world, he created humans, he created animals, he created nature, he created it all. And in a way, we imitate God by being creative. We also imitate God by doing kindness. But I feel like creativity is a way to bring coherence to the chaos. Because what's creativity? I mean, of course, you have to let go and go wild at first, but then I know as a writer, I'm looking for patterns. I'm looking for something that repeats. I'm looking for something that I didn't know before, but I only see now. And creativity is bringing something new to the world. So even being stuck at home, we can create. And it doesn't mean you have to be an artist or a painter or a writer. You know, make a lemon pie. I mean, I really want to perfect a fish crust. Maybe I'll try. But there's so many things to try and do, even stuck at home. So try to find something new to create and to bring that energy of creation into your life right now. Next see, what is it? Creativity. Oh yeah, commemoration. Commemoration. Commemoration is remembering. It's how we remember. I mean, in Judaism, we're always remembering. The word for remember is, I think, written 169 times in the Torah. And Judaism is just a religion where every Shabbos we're remembering, every holiday we're remembering a story. What's so important about remembering as people is that we have a family story. And it's the story of the Jewish people, just like every individual has a story. And it's important now to look back and remember, what has helped me in the past? What have I done when I've been in trouble, when I've had problems, when I've had trauma? I mean, I think a glass of wine is good for handling this. But like, what a tea, a bath, talking to friends. I think every person needs a team to support them. And like, I have that team, and somebody on my team is a psychologist. Like, think of that you need a team. But the other thing about commemoration is the family story. That there was a study done by a psychologist and her husband, Sarah and Marshall Duke. And Sarah was a family therapist. She was working with children. And what she kept seeing was that there were children in her practice who were very resilient. And all of a sudden, she started understanding that these children knew a lot about their family. They knew a lot about their family story. And they knew about the ups and downs of their family story. They knew about their grandparents. They knew where their parents met. They knew where their grandparents had lived. And that gave them resilience. So this is a really good opportunity for families to talk and share and really tell children and grandchildren about life, about your life, and what you know and what you've seen and what your parents were like and where they were born, and to use this time to not only create memories, but to share memories. And also, I mean, I keep saying I'm going to do the photo book thing online, like that's a kind of dream of mine. But that's also a great thing to do with kids, is to make the photo albums online, because that's also a way of sharing and remembering. Which brings me to the sixth step, which is consecration, which is to make something holy. And anytime you take pain and turn it into generosity and kindness, then you're kind of consecrating God's name, because you're taking what could have made you be very angry and resentful and bitter, and instead you're using it to share kindness. And I feel like, thank God we had that opportunity after my son's murder, because he had a very cruel murder. And it really, it still kills me. I mean, next week is Yom HaZikaron, Memorial Day, and then like 10 days after is Kobe's yahrzeit, his 19th yahrzeit. And he would be, I think, 31 or 32 today. And it could have killed us. But we were fortunate because we had a great community. And also we had, like, the community in New Jersey reach out to us. And even today, being reached out to by New Jersey. So that, like, our lives have become very big, or I'd say much bigger than they would have been. And that's a definition of resilience. It's also the ability to receive, because then one day, everything you've received, you'll want to give. It will just be a natural, like, a gift is made to be passed on. So it's okay to receive when you're down and out. Like, you need it. And then that can transfer. And I feel like all the work we've been able to do with the Kobe Mandel Foundation, with bereaved children, bereaved parents, and bereaved mothers, that for me, that's been like holy work to be able to share that. And also, my Hebrew was really when we first in Israel and after Kobe was killed. But I was able to be with Israeli bereaved mothers, and Israeli bereaved mothers, they're the ones who taught me. I mean, a lot of people taught me, everybody's, but they taught me. And I remember there's one mother, she looked at me and her son had been killed in a very hard way. He was 19, and she looked at me and she said, "This too is from God." So also this corona is from God. It's not an accident. And the last C is celebration. That we see it with the kids from Camp Kobe, that you think that they would be they have that terrible sadness, but they also have incredible joy, because when you have dipped down so far, it also expands your repertoire of happiness. Like you're able to go much higher up. And I think that what we're seeing, or I'd say what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, and I bet a lot of you are, is just how precious life is. Like when I go outside now for a walk, the trees and the flowers, and we have storks flying above us. And it's like nature really suddenly feels just like a miracle. And even talking to people that I see on the street, it's like, I'm so grateful for them. And so it's paradoxical, but I think that this coronavirus also can give us just this incredible opportunity to celebrate life. Resilience, it's from the word resalience. And salient is what is important, like what's meaningful. What's my purpose now? What's my purpose right now? What's my purpose today? What can I do today to make it an exceptional day that I'm going to be proud of living? I'm just going to close with two quotes. One is by Mary Oliver. She's a poet. It's from her poem Summer Day, and I'm paraphrasing it. But she says, "Tell me, what is it you want to do with your wild and precious life?" Your precious life, every day is precious. And then something from Tehillim, from 118. Today is the day that God made. Rejoice and be glad in it. Okay, thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Sherri. Yeah, there are a couple of questions. The first one I wanted to ask actually is the noted psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, Viktor Frankl, said, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." What do you think are the best ways to choose one's attitude?
Oh, to choose one's attitude. I think you have to get help from other people. You have to be able to receive and to believe. Personally for me, I think it was just that I received so much from other people. But I also know, I got it from my mother too, that my mother would say to me that you have to be able to make your own life, regardless of what's happening around you. So there's just a spirit that is unbroken, and you can see it in the Jewish people. Very strong spirit that gets passed along, and I think that it's not even cognitive. For me, it's not so cognitive. It's there. It's life. We believe in life.
Next question is, so you're now, obviously you talk about resilience so much, and I kind of refer to you as Miss Resilient. So, how does that feel? Does that bother you to be considered Miss Resilient? And obviously when sometimes you're not feeling so resilient. So what do you do personally when you're not feeling so resilient?
Okay, first of all, I am really not resilient. I wrote the book because I need resilience. Actually, my husband, he is a really resilient person. I go up and down, And like, I've really fallen sometimes, and I get help. I get help. And then I wrote the book for myself, so I would strengthen myself and also be able to like share everything I learned. But resilience is a process that, oscillates. It's not, I mean, there are people who are resilient, but some of them it's just because they seem resilient, but they're not letting anything in or out. A rock, you could say a rock is resilient, but it's not changing. So resilience is hard. Like all this change, it's like really, really hard. So, and also people like my friends, they know me, that I'm not that resilient. So I don't get it so much in Israel because it's just like, I live in a small community and we're very tight. So everybody knows what's going on in everybody's life.
Right. Okay.
The truth. And also I'm not afraid of the truth. Like sometimes I say to my kids, mom is messed up.
Okay. A few people are asking about how the camp started. Like, why did you decide to start the camp? Why the camp as a reaction to, Kobe's murder, and how did the foundation kind of evolve with the camp?
Yeah, well, the camp was because Kobe was 13. His siblings were 11, 10, and 6. And after Kobe's murder, we got so much help. I mean, people came to us, but the kids didn't get help. A lot. They got a little help, but they were so little, and who was going to understand them? And we actually, they were invited to Camp in America by Camp Moshava, which was so generous and wonderful, and we all went. But we understood that it wasn't really the place for them, and we knew that they needed a place that they could feel whole. And so we were able to start the camp in 2002. I think this is like our 19th year summer. We'll see. But we have activities going on anyway right now for the kids. We have their counselors are doing meetings, and the women are going to meet soon. And we're still supporting these families. But there was no place for kids like ours at that time. And actually, we're still the only grief camp in Israel because we started with terror victims, but now we take, children from other traumas and tragedies who have had their loved one, their mother or father murdered or killed or die from cancer, car accident, suicide. We have every lousy story in the world there. But the kids are so happy there. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, I've heard Camp Kobe referred to as the happiest place. Obviously, ironically.
Yeah.
How many campers do you typically have in the summer?
Between 300 and 400 kids in 8-day sessions, and we have kids from the age of 6 up to 18. And we have a program now that is a reunion program for the campers who are like in their 20s. They're parents, and they still have a meeting once a month because this kind of the tragedy we have, it doesn't go away. And for kids, it keeps hitting them all the time. And even when these kids are having their own children, all of a sudden they face it in a different way.
It sounds like the community that you're referring to, that the importance of community is.
Yeah.
You
We've created a huge community.
You mentioned God during your talk, and I was going to ask you about faith. Do you think faith, helps during these times? And do you find yourself, I've seen other, people talking about now is not the time to ask why, it's the time to ask what. But honestly, frankly, I'm asking why sometimes myself. So do you find yourself asking God why about Corona?
Oh yeah, I want to know. I really want to know what's going on. But I think we can just understand that God is saying, stay in your places. Don't run around so much. That's the only thing I can understand right now. I don't know the big reason. But in terms of faith, I feel like faith for me is something that sometimes I have it and sometimes it goes away. And I have to grab it back and I have to try to find it. But it's not like some people just have faith. I'm not that kind of person. Also, I wasn't raised religious, so maybe if I had been, but on the other hand, I feel like sometimes God kind of speaks to me. My kids tell me not to say that in public. I
There's
really
only
feel,
like 5,000 people listening to this, so don't worry.
but I feel like, like Rev Soloveitchik, he said, every suffering, he called it a kurjamaya. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there's a message. And we don't know the message yet, but I think it could even be individual, that everybody has to absorb this in a different way. I'm not talking about people who have no money left and no food. Like, again, that's just survival. But not, for people who don't have that kind of intensity of financial problem, I do not know I don't know, but I think also just the fact that we're a faith community, that there's davening and there's the holidays, and it also helped that we had Pesach. We had so much to do up till Pesach that it gave so many people a purpose to get toward.
Okay. I would say for me and probably most people, and I think you mentioned in your talk also the word uncertainty. The biggest anxiety right now is the uncertainty. How long is this going to last? And like you were saying, the experts don't know, and you hear all different things. So do you have any good advice for all of us about dealing with specifically uncertainty?
I think we just have to accept it, that we can't solve it. Like, there's nothing we can do right now to solve this. So I would say just to sink into the uncertainty, but not in a negative way, like sink so you'll rise. Like I asked somebody today that I saw in the grocery store, I told her I was speaking. I'm like, is there anything that's helping you? And she said, yes, I find a purpose every day. So we're all in the uncertainty, and it's just not going to be certain. And so we have to let go of control. The only control we have is to control our day and try to, I wouldn't even say be productive, be positive, but to give kindness, to receive kindness, to have a day that matters. That's all I can say.
What about the glass of wine? You're not going with that?
That's for sure. I think a cocktail hour is a very good idea. I do mine by myself, but yeah, with my son. He speaks Hebrew with me. We have a little opan together with a glass of wine.
Learning how to say
what?
martini, learning how to say martini in Hebrew or cosmopolitan or something like that?
No, not yet, but more like red wine, another glass, please.
Gotcha. So there was a recent article in the New York Times that stated that having a sense of purpose and helping others has a significant impact on our well-being, and in fact can bolster our emotional health. Do you agree with this? And have you seen this specifically in your own work, in any stories or anything that come to mind about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I feel like the whole, first 5 years after Kobe was murdered, like I was reaching out constantly, and it helped me. I mean, I was helping people, but I needed to do it because I felt like also these are the people that understand me. I had to go to suffering people in life, but we see it like with a lot of the mothers in our mothers groups, that we know that they're getting better because all of a sudden they start doing projects like one of our mothers has a Pesach kitchen, Passover kitchen with food that everybody can come, that they give out the food for Passover. And other people have other projects. So as soon as they have these other projects, we know, they still stay with us, but we know that we've kind of launched them on their way.
Okay. All right. And I think we'll have time for one more question. Someone is asking, now in a time of physical separation, how do you recommend that we support each other in being resilient during these kind of strange times?
Yeah, well, first of all, to connect with the people you're living with. But I have friends who live alone and had their Seder alone. But they did like the Zoom with their families before. And to just be part of a lot of groups, to call people and video chat with people and to just connect. We can keep connecting. I mean, there's still the cell phone and the computer, just to really use all the technology in order to connect. I mean, like, you can learn online, keep learning, and you can still be part of groups. Like, I teach writing, we're still doing that. So I see my students every week, and the kids from the camp, they see each other on Zoom. So just create those groups. And if you don't have one, then create it, because everybody needs it. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants to get out of their little bubble now.
That is absolutely so true. Out of my sweatpants. Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Sherri. I hope everyone enjoyed this presentation. It was really, I found it very meaningful and enlightening. And your insights and experiences, really, they resonate significantly, especially at a time like this. I know you mentioned something about spouses fighting. I don't know what you're talking about on that one. I'll leave that so. As everybody knows, it's been a very rough period, for everybody as we continue to navigate the unique challenges associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. It really just still seems so surreal. And I know I feel concerned and uncertain about the future. I want you to know that Federation shares our concerns and is here to help. Throughout our 100-year history, Federation has always answered the call to help those in need, not just during a crisis, but every day. And the reason Federation can respond so quickly, effectively, and efficiently when crisis strikes is because Federation is in the business all year of responding to the needs of the community. So when we are faced with a formidable crisis, Federation is nimble enough to quickly ramp up and move into action. So far, we have already distributed over $250,000 to the community, our community, for COVID-19 assistance. And as Sherri spoke about the importance of community, I can't emphasize it enough as being a core value for all of us. I ask you to please consider making a donation to Jewish Federation today, so our most vulnerable populations, not just during a crisis, but every day. Thank you so much for participating, everyone. And thank you again, Sherri. It's really a heartfelt todah. And be well, stay healthy, and everybody have a great rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.